Hey guys, welcome back. If you've seen the title for today's video and thought, do I have the wrong channel? No, you don't. I know you're usually more used to seeing me putting coffee pages in these notebooks, but today I am going to do a page about tea. Now, I don't have a lot of tea stamps, I'll be perfectly honest. The two sets I've got out here are the two that I've got. So one is a very old one from Feed Your Craft, and the other I think is like a freebie kind of set from Practical Publishing that a lovely subscriber sent to me. So from what I can see, it came free with a magazine. So it's no longer available, unfortunately. But if I find anything similar, I'll link it down below because I really do like it. So what I've got is I've just got one little photo about my very recent tea habit, and let's be fair, it's not really a tea habit. I am just trying to cut down on my coffee intake just a little bit, and I have found one variety of tea that I don't mind, so that's it there, Yorkshire tea, the biscuit tea flavour. Really enjoy it. Unfortunately cannot get it here for life nor love, so that might be my only box. Now what I've decided to do is use these stamps, and I've been through my stash and pulled out a bunch of yellow papers. Just because the box of tea is yellow, I'm going to go with yellow as a theme. And I'm stamping my stamps onto the pattern paper rather than onto my notebook today. So there you go. I've done all of that. I've stamped them all probably about twice on each pattern. And then I have very patiently fussy cut every single one of them. You can see I had two different methods for cutting out the hole in the handle of the cup. I stopped using scissors very quickly and went onto a knife with my cutting board there, and to be fair, it didn't take too long, and I love the way it turned out. So totally worth the time and effort. So basically what I'm going to do is create my own kind of pattern. I guess it's not really pattern paper, my own kind of pieced paper pattern on this left-hand side of the page using all of these teacups. I didn't have a whole lot of yellow papers, so I've got a sort of mix in there between like really bright yellows and more kind of golden, I guess tea-colored yellows. And so what I'm doing as I'm putting this pattern together is trying to distribute those kind of evenly. So just getting a balance between the bright and the more muted shades. And you can see the pattern I've developed. So I'm doing rows, so one row has like 1 and 2 halves cups there, which is what I'm doing now. Just going ahead and using my paper trimmer to trim these cups in half. It's just going to make the actual adhering process a little bit quicker, and then all I need to do is trim off those other ones top and bottom. So I really love how this pattern came out. I'm just going to adhere these all down, and it doesn't really take too long, but because of those very small kind of like handles on the teacup, I decided to use a little bit of liquid adhesive, so I'm using Smart Glue from scrapbook.com. I also decided that I would start kind of in the middle of the page, just so that I could kind of make sure everything was even as I moved out from there. Otherwise I have a tendency to kind of, I guess, sway things as I'm moving up and down the page. So starting in the middle, and I worked my way to the bottom and then back up to the top. It wasn't too long. I love this glue because it really does dry pretty quickly. I've never been like a major fan of liquid adhesives because I like to work quickly, but this one does dry quick enough that I'm not smearing glue all over the place. So I trimmed those at top and bottom, and that's really it for that left-hand page. I'm not going to do a whole lot more on there. What I am going to do is use this tea and coffee set from Feed Your Craft. I'm going to use that just to build a little bit, it's not a huge, but a little bit of a cluster on the right-hand side of the page with my photo. One of the things that I really did want to use was that kind of label stamp, because I think it quite perfectly sort of sums up my usual preference. So you like choosing coffee or tea. I thought that would be a fun one to choose. So I'm going to use the little tea cup as opposed to the takeaway coffee cup in the gap there, and there is a teeny little stamp for a tea bag. Now I could definitely have just left it plain black and white like that, but I do want to add in some of the patterns, some of the colors that I've used over on that left hand side, just to kind of, you know, get a bit of consistency and tie everything together. So what I did was stamp the actual teacup part second time onto some of the yellow pattern paper, and I'm just trimming out, there's kind of like an interior line in there, and I'm trimming that out so that I can adhere that down on top of my first stamp. So that leaves the cup clear but fills in the kind of tea portion with the yellow pattern paper. Then I've stamped the little tea bag again on top of the pattern paper, and then I'm trimming out the very, very tiny little tea bag. So that way I get the yellow tea, the clear cup, and I also get a white tea bag on top. Like, I mean, there are a million different ways you could have done this. If you've got markers, you could have colored it in, colored pencils, paint, whatever. I'm working with paper, so I used paper, and I kind of like how that works. I'm just going to trim off just a little bit of the right hand edge of that label because it's a little bit big. I don't want it to cover too much of my box. But what I'm going to do is add a little bit more onto here because the cluster, when I have it just the label like that, it's a little bit simple, even for me. What I do have is this little die of a tea bag. It came with that same stamp, so I guess it came as a set, so it had the stamp, a die set, and a little stencil too, I think. But I just wanted to use this little tea bag die, which is effectively just a tiny little tag die that has a hole at the top. So if you don't have a die, you could 100% trim out a tea bag shaped like this. It was not difficult, but I kind of liked that it had a tea bag shaped hole at the top. It's kind of like a T shaped hole, the letter T rather than the drink tea. And so I'm going to use that hole to create some threads on these fake tea bags. Just using a little bit of black cotton. Could have used white, but it just kind of would disappear, and I wanted this to, you'd be able to see this. No point in going through all of this drama if you weren't going to be able to see the white thread. So I'm using black. It kind of ties in the black stamping that's going on everywhere as well. I cut out 2 of those tea bags, and again, it's just me trying to add some of this pattern into here. I also decided that I was going to use just a little bit of the teacup. You're not going to see a whole lot of it. It's just adding an extra layer under here, and again, a little bit more of that pattern. So I've adhered one portion of the teacup. You can see there, it's barely going to be showing, but I kind of like that it ties those 2 pages together. Then I'm going to adhere down one of these little fake tea bags, and I'm just sort of positioning the thread. Like, I'm not going to glue it down, but I am putting it sort of in the position that I want it. And then I'm just going to attach the end. So it's going to be underneath my photo. You're not going to see that washi tape, but it's just going to hold it in place. So until I get my photo glued down, I kind of want that to be just stuck in one place, but I don't actually want to glue all of that thread down. Now my second tea bag I'm layering on top of my photo, but again I want that thread to go in underneath my photo there, so I'm doing the same thing. I'm adding a little bit of washi tape there, and then I can go ahead and adhere the photo down, and that's going to make sure that all of that sticks nicely. Now I'm using a little bit of double-sided tape for this one just because I've got a few little layers going on there. I kind of want it to be as flat as possible, and I want to be able to just adhere a little bit at a time because I need to make sure that the photo's straight, and I find it a little bit hard to do that when I've got all these other kind of angles going on with the tea bag and whatnot. So I just adhered one piece down and then stuck that down, and love the way that those threads from the tea bags kind of stick out over the top of the photo there. They're loose and I love that kind of thing, but they're fully attached, so they're not going anywhere. Last thing to do is to add in that label that I had done. I'm just going to bump that up against the edge of the page. And I did decide that I would add, I wasn't necessarily going to add anything else, but I decided that I would stamp the word tea on top of my photo just to kind of balance out that really bottom heavy sort of cluster layout. Plus, I'm not going to have too many other opportunities to use that tea stamp, I would imagine. As far as journaling goes, I wasn't necessarily going to add any, but I've added just a couple of lines because tea, it's an okay alternative, but it's definitely no replacement. Ticked the word tea and called that layout all done. Hey, thanks for watching today, guys. I know it's a little bit different than usual, but I'm loving this technique, and I love the way that the layout turned out, even if it is about tea. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, there are a couple more videos on screen. Otherwise, I'll see you again really soon. Bye guys.